Today, we are diving into something called Privileged Identity Management, or PIM for short. And trust me, it's a really fundamental idea in modern security that completely flips the script on how we manage our most powerful user accounts. So let me just start by asking you a question. Think about your admin accounts. You know, the global admins, the ones that are basically the master keys to your entire kingdom. Are those keys just active all the time, 24/7? Just sitting there waiting for someone to use them or, more importantly, misuse them? This is a huge, and I mean a surprisingly common security risk. And yeah, this risk actually has a name: standing privileges. It's this whole idea of giving an account permanent admin access, just in case it's needed. But that just in case mindset, it's basically a welcome mat for attackers. Okay, so let's really get into why these standing privileges are so incredibly dangerous. To put it simply, the longer a super powerful account is active, the bigger the window of opportunity an attacker has to find a way to compromise it. Now, get a load of this number. Microsoft found that a staggering 98% of compromises involve weak credentials or a lack of multi-factor authentication. So let that sink in for a second. If an attacker gets a password for some regular user, that's bad for sure. But if they get the password for a global admin who has standing privileges, that's it. It's game over. The damage they can do is catastrophic. And this quote, this really nails the new reality we live in. In this cloud-first world, the old idea of a network perimeter or the firewall, it's just gone. Your new front line, your most important line of defense, is identity. So protecting those identities, especially the really powerful ones, is absolutely everything. So if having access all the time, that standing access, is the problem, then the solution is a total shift in how we think. We need to move from just-in-case access to just-in-time access. And the tool that lets us do this? That's PIM. So here's the crucial point. PIM is a service that grants powerful permissions only when they are actually needed, for a limited time, and for a specific reason. It just gets rid of that constant, unnecessary risk of having those powerful accounts lying around. Honestly, here's the best way to think about it. Imagine you have a master key. Instead of that key working all the time, PIM gives you a key that you have to deliberately activate for a specific job. And then, once you're done, the key deactivates itself. It's a simple idea, but it is incredibly powerful. Okay, so how does PIM actually pull this off? Well, it all comes down to understanding two different states for any privileged role, being eligible versus being active. And this distinction is super simple, but it's critical. An eligible user is someone who can ask for admin rights, but they don't have them by default. They're basically pre-approved to make the request. An active user, on the other hand, is someone who has made that request and currently has those admin rights, but only for a very specific, limited amount of time. This lifecycle right here is the heart of PIM. A user starts out as eligible. They have zero special powers. When they need to do some admin work, they go through the process to activate their role, becoming activated for a set period. And as soon as that time is up, the access expires, and poof, they're right back to just being an eligible user. No lingering privileges, no leftover risk. So what does that activation process actually look like for the user? Well, it's definitely not just a single click. It's a whole secure workflow with a bunch of checks and balances built right in. So to activate a role, a user typically has to jump through a few hoops. First, they need a good reason, what are you doing and why do you need these powers? Then they have to prove it's really them, usually with multi-factor authentication. And of course, the access is always temporary. For the really sensitive roles, it might even require a manager's approval before it's granted. But let's make this totally real. Imagine you have a contractor who needs some high-level security access for a project. Instead of just handing over a permanent admin account, you make them eligible for the role. Each morning when they start work, they request to activate it, and they type in a reason. Their manager gets a notification and approves it, they pass an MFA check, and boom, they get access. But only for the next 8 hours. At the end of their workday, that access just vanishes, automatically. And this timeline really drives the point home, right? Privileged access is not a permanent state. It's a temporary event with a very clear start and a very clear automated end. You get exactly the access you need for only as long as you need it, nothing more, nothing less. All right, let's zoom out for a second. How does a tool like PIM fit into the bigger picture of a modern security strategy? Well, PIM is actually a cornerstone of a framework you've probably heard a lot about: zero trust. The core idea behind zero trust is actually pretty simple. Never trust, always verify. It works from the assumption that a breach is either going to happen or has already happened. So every single request for access has to be treated as hostile until it's proven to be legitimate. So, zero trust is really built on three big ideas. First, verify explicitly, which means always double-checking who someone is and what they're allowed to touch. Second, use least privilege access, which is exactly what PIM does, giving just enough access to get the job done and absolutely no more. And third, assume breach, which means you design your security as if an attacker is already wandering around inside your network. And that right there is the punchline. PIM is how you actually put least privilege into practice. It's the real-world, practical tool that takes this principle from a theoretical concept on a whiteboard and makes it an enforced reality in your environment. So what's the bottom line here? Why does this matter so much? With PIM, you shrink your attack surface in a huge way. You automatically enforce that core zero trust principle of least privilege. You get a perfect audit trail for every single privileged action, which creates total accountability. And maybe most importantly, you're putting your most critical assets, your admin accounts, inside a digital vault that only opens when it absolutely has to. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. Take a minute and think about your own organization. Ask yourself this question. How many admin accounts are just sitting there right now, active, 24/7, just waiting? And what would it mean for your security if you could just turn them all off until the exact moment they were needed? Thanks so much for watching. Keep making progress, actually. Hey, if you found this useful, subscribe for more explainers on identity, security, and IT. We'll see you in the next one.